My sister looked her boyfriend square in the eye and told him I was just a family friend who sometimes helped out. I stood 10 feet away in my parents' living room, frozen. At Christmas dinner, he turned toward me, extended his hand, and introduced himself as though we had never shared a last name. I shook it. What else could I do when the floor beneath me seemed to drop away in slow motion? I was still holding the appetizer tray. That small, mundane detail is what I can't forget, not because it was dramatic, but because it was casually devastating. I stood there, smiling at a stranger, wearing my sister's face, realizing in pieces that she had erased me from her life in real time, in front of our parents' Christmas tree. And the worst part, I still didn't know why. The ivory cardstock felt heavier than it should have. The kind that cost $3 just to mail. I found it in the trash behind my mother's house, tucked under damp coffee grounds inside a crushed yogurt container. I wasn't snooping. The recycling bin had overflowed, and I was trying to help before heading home. That was always the first mistake, trying to help. The card was an invitation to the Hendersons' 40th anniversary party. They had lived next door for 12 years. I mowed their lawn every summer in high school, attended their daughter's graduation, knew exactly how they took their coffee. These were people I genuinely knew. And yet my mother had RSVP'd for 2 and thrown the card away before I could even see it. I set it on the kitchen counter and waited. When my mother walked in and saw it, she froze. I expected guilt. What I got was composure. No apology, no look away. She simply said the party was that Saturday, and she had already made other plans. Then came the real reason. Bianca was going instead. Bianca needed to network with the Hendersons' son, who worked in venture capital. My mother delivered this like it was perfectly reasonable. I wasn't asking to take Bianca's spot. I just wanted to understand why I was being treated like a ghost in a house I had helped keep standing. They always forgot that part. I'm 32, a high school history teacher, and for 5 years, I had quietly kept this family financially afloat. I paid for the roof repair after the storm. I covered Bianca's car insurance for 6 months when she forgot to renew it. I was the family's silent ATM, reliable, invisible, apparently an embarrassment. The moment a high society invitation arrived, my mother looked me in the eye and told me Bianca had warned her that my ordinary presence would jeopardize the connection with the Henderson boy. She chose Bianca's social climbing over my seat at a neighbor's dinner. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. I picked up my keys and walked out, finally accepting something I should have understood years earlier. While I had been busy building their floor, they had been busy building my ceiling low enough that I could never stand up straight inside this family. Bianca's condo in Woodside smelled like expensive candles and unspoken lies. I arrived on a Thursday with a vintage silk scarf wrapped carefully in tissue paper, a peace offering, or at least that's what I let her believe. Bianca lingered in front of her hallway mirror while I deliberately fumbled with my phone and her television. I told her I wanted to show a tribute video for her upcoming wedding rehearsal. She smiled that practiced marketing firm smile that began at her lips and stopped short of her eyes, typing her passcode into the iPad to help. She didn't suspect a thing. To Bianca, I had always been the boring older sister who followed the rules. The florist called. She stepped onto the terrace. The glass door slid shut. I had 60 seconds. I activated the screen record shortcut I'd quietly added to her control panel the week before and opened the folder labeled Work. What filled that screen was not a wedding budget. It was a private charitable foundation established in my name, the Leona Memorial Wilderness Safety Fund. My stomach fell through the floor as my hands shook. I scrolled through a ledger of donations. $15,000 from Julian's aunt. $10,000 from his grandfather. People grieving a woman who was very much alive. With every dollar categorized as consulting fees paid directly to Bianca's marketing firm. She wasn't just hiding me. She was liquidating me. I stopped the recording as the terrace door slid open. Bianca walked back in, complaining about the price of peonies, completely unaware that I now held the digital receipts of her entire operation time-stamped, saved, and backed up to my own cloud drive. I didn't stay for tea. I walked to my car with both hands trembling, the truth settling over me like ash. Bianca had spent 3 years cashing checks on my grave, but she'd forgotten one thing. Ghosts don't file tax returns. I do. I flew to Auckland instead. I needed 18 hours of recycled cabin air and the quiet arc of the Southern Cross to remind myself I was still breathing. New Zealand silence, the kind that lives inside mountains like something ancient, was the first real quiet I'd felt in years. It didn't last. On the 5th day, there was a knock at my hotel door. I opened it to find a woman I recognized instantly from photographs on Julian's desk. Genevieve Whitfield, Julian's grandmother. She stood in the hallway in pearls and a silk trench coat, her eyes carrying 90 years of seeing straight through people. She walked past me without waiting to be invited. Her first words were not a greeting, "You're not dead." I didn't play dumb, I waited. Genevieve reached into her bag and withdrew the wedding program. She flipped to the final pages. Her finger landed on a section bordered in black. In loving memory, my high school graduation photograph, my name, the years I had supposedly been alive, and the year my life had, according to Bianca, come to its quiet end. Bianca had told the entire Whitfield family that I had disappeared on a solo hiking trip 3 years earlier. She had cried on Julian's shoulder about the shameful, unresolved circumstances of my disappearance, carefully implying a mental health crisis she claimed she had been powerless to prevent. She had transformed my absence into a tragedy she could perform on cue. "She has been collecting donations for a wilderness safety foundation in your honor," Genevieve said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had already made her decision. My sisters and I had written checks totaling over $150,000. I stared at my own face on that memorial page. Bianca hadn't just pushed me to the margins. She had converted my existence into an income stream, profiting from the grief of a family she hadn't even legally married into yet. For the first time, I saw what lived beneath Genevieve's pearls. A quiet, old, and very patient fury. "My grandson is about to marry a woman who turned your life into a line item for fraud," she said. "I'm not here to comfort you, Leona. I'm here because no one steals from the Whitfields and walks away clean." She placed a first-class ticket on the table between us. The wedding was in 48 hours. Don't be late for your own resurrection. The woodside vineyard smelled of aged wine and Pacific salt air. Inside the private estate library, where the marriage license waited on a mahogany desk, the air was perfectly still. I didn't crash the ceremony. I didn't stand up during the vows. I waited until the champagne was flowing on the terrace, and for the exact moment, Bianca and Julian stepped inside the library to sign the marriage license. The officiant was a retired federal judge, a man who had spent 4 decades separating truth from performance. He extended a gold pen toward Bianca. She was radiant in ivory lace, her composure, a studied masterpiece. She reached for the pen. The heavy oak door clicked open. I walked in. It closed behind me, with the quiet finality of a decision that could not be undone. Bianca froze. The pen hovered motionless above the license as I watched the color drain from her face. Her bridal makeup looked like something painted on marble. Julian whispered. He looked at me, then at the memorial page folded in his tuxedo pocket. The disorientation of someone watching a story they had lived inside for years reveal itself as fiction. I didn't look at him. I looked at the judge. I placed my passport and a certified notice of living status directly on top of the unsigned marriage license. "I am Leona Calloway," I said, "and I believe my sister has listed herself as the sole surviving sibling on the federal affidavit filed in connection with this marriage." The judge withdrew his hand. He closed the marriage registry with a sound like a verdict. I could not witness a felony. Bianca's composure collapsed, not gradually, all at once, the way a window shatters. She lunged toward me, the lace of her gown catching on the desk. "You're ruining it," she screamed. "You were supposed to stay gone. You always ruin everything." I kept my voice even. "I didn't ruin this, Bianca. You did 3 years ago when you decided it was easier to kill me on paper than to let me exist in your world." Julian backed away, his face gray. Seeing the woman he had comforted through 1,000 manufactured tears, understanding finally dawned. Every single one had been a performance. I turned and walked out, leaving the sole surviving sibling to explain to a retired federal judge why she had committed fraud before her first dance. Bianca never made it to her reception. She was escorted to a private room while the Whitfield legal team arrived. She performed a breakdown, sobbing about pressure and circumstances beyond her control. The Whitfields don't deal in emotions, they deal in audits. 2 days later came the false ending. Bianca checked into a wellness retreat in Carmel, positioning herself as a victim. She sent our mother to my hotel not to apologize, but to tell me Bianca was fragile. I was being cruel. Involving the authorities was revenge against my own family. That was when the second mask fell. While Bianca sat in Carmel being attended to, she was frantically working to transfer the deed to our parents' home into a shell company to shield it from the incoming lawsuits. She had convinced our mother to sign the papers, calling it the only way to protect the family home from my vengeance. She was too late. The IRS whistleblower report I had filed from Auckland had already moved through the system, because the foundation involved wire fraud and unreported income exceeding $100,000. Federal agents arrived at the Carmel retreat and served Bianca with a notice of asset seizure. The luxury SUV purchased with memorial donations and the family home she had maneuvered our mother into signing were both placed under a federal tax lien. My mother called minutes later, hysterical. "How could you do this to us?" I thought of the Auckland sunrise, pale gold, indifferent, beautiful, and felt something I hadn't anticipated. Nothing. "I didn't do this to you, Mom," I said quietly. "You and Bianca spent 3 years pretending I didn't exist. The government is simply making that official for your bank accounts. You wanted things simple. Now they are." I hung up. Julian texted once. "The annulment was finalized this morning. I'm sorry. I spent 3 years mourning a lie." Instead of replying, I let it be. Some apologies arrived too late to be anything but noise in a room that has finally gone quiet. I put my phone on silent and, for the first time in 32 years, did not check to see if anyone needed anything from me. The judge sentenced Bianca to 6 years in state prison, $142,000 in documented wire fraud, a calculated multi-year scheme to exploit the genuine grief of a prominent family. The Leona Memorial Wilderness Safety Fund was dismantled by federal auditors. Every account frozen, the SUV auctioned, every dollar recovered. Bianca's marketing firm collapsed within weeks. Our mother was left in a one-bedroom apartment, arranged by Genevieve. She had lost the family home because she signed paperwork she didn't read, blinded as always by the daughter she had chosen. 6 months into Bianca's sentence, a letter arrived. Prison stationery, frantic handwriting. "I'm still your sister, Leona. How can you sit in that mansion while I'm in here? If you have any heart left, call Julian's lawyers and tell them it was all a misunderstanding." I read it twice. I waited for anger or grief, for that old familiar guilt. Instead, indifference. The quiet kind you feel reading an audit report for a company that closed its doors years ago. I walked to the fireplace, held the letter over the embers until it caught, and watched it turn into the only thing Bianca had ever allowed me to be. My life now is quiet in a way I didn't know I was allowed to have. I manage Genevieve's correspondence and the estate's historical archives, a job suited to a history teacher perfectly. I have a cottage with a view of the Santa Cruz Mountains and a cat who tolerates me with dignified, honest affection. I have a chosen family, people who look me in the eye when they speak. They don't need me to be a tragedy to find me worth knowing. They simply like that I'm here. I've learned 3 things the hard way. The audit of silence, staying quiet, is not taking the high road. It is laying down pavement for people to walk over you. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they will make certain you're the villain, the ghost, or the tragedy that makes them look better. Your silence is not grace. It is a resource someone else is actively using, the paper trail. A liar can delete a text, gaslight a room, cry convincingly for years, but they cannot rewrite a tax return, a federal affidavit, or a marriage license. When the world feels like a fog of competing narratives, look for documentation. The truth isn't a feeling, it's a record. Records don't forget the geometry of family. DNA is a line of code. Loyalty is a circle of trust. They are not the same. You are under no obligation to treat them as if they are. You are allowed fully, completely, without guilt, to walk away from people who share your last name, but do not share your humanity. Are you the family friend in your own home? Are you the one standing in the doorway holding the appetizer tray while your existence is quietly auctioned off in the next room? If any part of this resonates, share your thoughts below. Someone out there is standing exactly where I once stood, and they need to know. The story doesn't have to end there. My name is Leona Calloway. I was erased, memorialized, and left for dead on paper